Nagareshu Kanchi. Jasmine among flowers, Vishnu among men, Rambha among women, and Kanchi among cities. Thus sang the great poet Kalidasa about 300 years before the events in this story. Kanchi, that fairest of cities. Kanchi, a city that had seen a succession of rulers from the Cholas to the Pallavas since the second century BC. A city that has been described in the Sangam classic Perumpanatrupare as flanked by its belt of defensive jungles is that city whose doors are never closed to those who seek the prize. Lovely like the pericarp of the many-petaled lotus, the navel of the dark-hued lawn. Kanchi was a city rich in history, culture, and tradition. Here had lived legendary kings of yore. Here they had laughed and fought, warred and caroused, loved and prayed. Here had lived scientists and mathematicians, poets and philosophers, saints and savants. A place that was one of the seven holiest places for the people of this land in living memory. Kanchi, from where the great Buddhist evangelist Bodhidharma spread Buddhism to China through the Shaolin Temple, where he is said to have initiated the monks into the secrets of the ancient Indian martial arts of Kalaripayattu and Varmakala. Kanchi, where Buddhists and Jains, Shaivites and Vaishnavites, and Tantrics and atheists jostled with each other to claim their adherence. Kanchi, a city of 1,000 soaring temples and palaces, of beautiful gardens and lakes, of wide roads and even wider hearts. Kanchi, a city of cowbells and temple bells, of anklets tinkling amidst the colonnaded palaces and temples, of voices of traders raised in welcome from dawn to dusk, of horses, carriages, and carts pounding the main thoroughfares, of the tongues of the Tamils and the Andhras and the Kannadigas and their more northern brethren mingling with each other from the bazaars to the debating halls of the many great educational institutions in the city. There was also another, less reputable senior side to Kanchi, the same as for any other big city. This was a city filled with rogues and scoundrels, thieves and pickpockets, fake sadhus and lechers, rowdies and prostitutes. Both these Kanchis existed side by side, but almost as distinct entities. Okay, so that's one passage. I'll just read a passage so this is where an ambush is taking place. The arrows rose up into the sky in a lazy arc. The twang of an arrow is much romanticized. Indian epics are full of the loud twangs of Rama's or Arjuna's bows. Yet, here, no such twangs were heard as the archers pulled their bowstrings and let fly arrows into the air. The arrows rose almost noiselessly, and then, as they reached the zenith of their paths, seemed to stand still before changing direction and gathering speed as they plunged down towards the river. The soldiers heard the arrows first, as faint whispers that almost melted into the rustling of leaves along the riverbanks and the flowing of the river. They felt the arrows when they thudded into their bodies with muted thwacks. It was then that the shrieks started. Even as the first set of arrows reached the top of their arcs, the archers had already let fly the next set of arrows. To the soldiers crossing the river, it was as if a continuous sheet of metal, wood, and feathers rained down on them with no hope of escape. Again and again, the archers on the hills notched their arrows to their bowstrings and let them fly. Again and again, the arrows flew into the air and rained down on their enemies. They decimated the cavalry. Horses were emptied of their saddles. Dead bodies floated in the river stuck with arrows. Here and there, dead horses accompanied their dead masters on their final journey. Panic-stricken cavalrymen tried to turn their horses around, but the pressure from the back, where the infantry had already started to cross, impeded their progress. Some of them tried to move ahead and cross the river. As they came to the banks, the archers along the hill simply mowed them down with their arrows.